Hello, VC. Here to show some stuff I've been listening to recently. I tried to do this video, I think last Saturday, sometime over the weekend, and it was blocked due to copyright claim. Super convenient, makes a ton of sense, so that people can hear about and check out this music. Whatever, not gonna complain about it too much. Listening to Muslimgauze, which hopefully will not result in a copyright claim, but we'll see. The disc is Drugsherpa. Great stuff. I'm not super into electronic music, but I really like what this guy does. I really like his incorporation of Middle Eastern music, and all the beats, obviously, you can hear are comprised of Middle Eastern percussion instruments and samples. It's just a really cool, brooding, Middle Eastern kind of atmosphere. I really like Muslimgauze. Disco is really crazy about for a while that I picked up recently. Frank Zappa, Civilization Phase 3, which is the time we're of course living in currently. It's really easy to imagine all of us sort of isolated inside of our own pianos, which is sort of a central conception of this record. The piano people who live inside this giant piano, along with, of course, some of Zappa's most brilliant synclavier compositions of his career. Honestly, this could be his magnum opus, and I think it's a record that's not really talked about nearly as much as like his mid-70s comedy rock kind of stuff, which to me is maybe the low point of his career. Yeah, this is fantastic. I really wish that I had known about it sooner. Another obsession, because I've just been checking out a bunch of stuff digitally in isolation, and then buying the ones that I can that I become obsessed with so that they arrive in the mailbox. But Wire 154, I'd listened to Pink Flag a lot before, but hadn't checked out the other two of their first three records, and this one resonated with me quite a bit. I really enjoy this record. Kind of reminds me, honestly, of a lot of the stuff I used to really like about bands like the Melvins. It's got kind of stuff that I feel like is a bit of a precursor to that sort of style of punk rock. Yeah, I mean, this came out in 1979, the same year as classic post-punk records like This Heat's first album, and I feel like this is the middle point of how progressive punk music had become at that point. Like anything less progressive in the punk rock world to me isn't really that interesting at this point. Yeah, the second half of this record is so solid, like the last 5 tracks. Favorite of mine being, oh man, I'm blanking on the title. It's been a minute since I listened to this. Indirect Inquiries? Yeah. You then defaced. Yeah, I fucking love this record. Another obsession. Now this one, White Light, White Heat, Velvet Underground. I'd listened to it before, but only recently had it really clicked with me just how brilliant and raw and fucked up this record really is. For 1968, this is some truly gross music. And yeah, Lou Reed's guitar playing on this album is fantastic. Super scrunky for the time that it came out. I really love playing the bass line on Lady Godiva's Operation as well. And Sister Ray, of course, is a classic. And yeah, the guitar playing on I Heard Her Call My Name. Brilliant stuff. This is a must-have late 60s rock record, in my opinion. Weirder recent arrival from, I guess, contemporaries of the krautrock scene. I don't know that this record's truly in that style, but Anima-Sound is the record. It's husband and wife, Limp and Paul Fuchs, Limp being a classically trained percussionist and an improviser, and that's kind of what they do on this record, is they just improvise with percussion and voice and homemade instruments. Paul has this crazy Fuchs bass that he made that makes really cool low frequency. I mean, it sounds like a bass guitar. I think there's an image of it in the insert, kind of. Yeah. This thing looks like he's playing with some sort of bar as well, rather than a fretted instrument. Of course, crazy percussion instruments. Yeah, this is far out stuff. Probably a lesser known krautrock record, but I really enjoy it. Anima-Sound, Sturmischer, Himmel. Their other stuff is great. I mean, this is Nurse with Wound list type stuff. It's really cool. And this is the record that got me banned. I'm really not sure why. Like, this is a big money maker here. They're losing a lot of money by well, if they had allowed me to play this in the background. Anyway, I probably shouldn't say anything about this record, since they obviously don't want anybody to hear it, but I want people to hear it. I think it's really cool. Christy, Doran, Fredy, Stephan, Wittwer, other players. You got two guitarists, being Christy, Doran, and Stephan, and then Fredy, on drums and percussion, and there's some electronics and sequencer and stuff on here. And let's see, when did this come out? 87? It doesn't sound dated. It sounds, the electronics, I mean, don't sound dated. It sounds very creative and interesting, and the guitar playing is fantastic on this record. I mean, it's really somewhere between like European free improvisation and like 80s King Crimson, like Discipline era King Crimson. And it's on ECM as well, which maybe that's why it got taken down. I don't know. But, yeah, this is a cool, overlooked ECM release, in my opinion. I really like it. Red Twist and Tuned Arrow. I've recently taken a liking to John Philtatman's channel, and a couple of records that he showed I really thought were far up my alley and decided to pick them up. First being Voodooboogie by Kraldjursanstalten. This is Swedish Beefheart-esque punk rock, complex, scrunky, raw, insane, my kind of stuff. Very into Swedish rock in general. I have some more of those coming in the mail that I'm excited about, and this also kind of reminds me of another Swedish group I really like called Samla Mamas Mana, only I guess a bit more raw in its sound, and Samla Mamas Mana is definitely a bit more refined, I guess, prog rock. I don't know. They're both fucking weird and complex and my kind of stuff. Nothing schlocky here at all. Really good stuff. And the other one from Philtatman, Stump, Fierce Pancake, another Beefheart-esque kind of rock album. With I'm not too big into jangle pop or anything like that, but I can kind of hear that sound in this record. Just a touch of it, you know, not enough to ruin it, but yeah, you know, it's accessible, but it's also very complex and weird. Some of the craziest bass playing I've heard recently from this guy's name, Kev Hopper, I think. Yeah. Good stuff. Recommended. And speaking of Beefheart, was on a pretty big Beefheart kick last week, so I listened to Troutmask, Replica. Of course, I probably don't need to say too much about this record, but definitely a favorite for me. Definitely a high point of late 60s rock. And then I also got really into this record, like my Decals off Baby. Troutmask has always been my favorite, but I really took a liking to this one as well recently. You know, it's like there's so much music on Troutmask that like, what's the point of listening to the rest of Beefheart's discography almost? Just because there's like so much music to digest there, but yeah, I guess getting over the romanticization of that record and branching out into the rest of the discography, there's plenty of other gems to be found, and frankly this record is just as good, if not a slight improvement on the formula in terms of the music on this record. I will say there's more mischief on Troutmask Replica, which I think makes it a bit more worthwhile and a bit more of a complete statement from Beefheart. But this record's fantastic. And then the other one I listened to, this is Mirror Man, right? Yeah. Fantastic. What I like about this one is that his band actually like jams on this record, which isn't something they do normally, and it's normally all complex composition, and I'm sure this is composed still, but like with Candy Corn especially, I mean, they really take it out on that track, and it's really fun to listen to. Yeah. I think these were, I might be mistaken, I think these were re-recordings or maybe different versions of sessions they had done for an earlier album I don't have. I can't even remember the title of it. But anyway, this is really good stuff. And I got really into reggae recently. It didn't click with me for many, many years, but it finally did, I don't know, a couple months ago. I bought a bunch of those records, but this has been a perennial favorite of that bunch of reggae records that I collected. Jackie Mittoo, Macka Fat. I actually bought this one because I saw Rob Sound Strange show it, and I figured as big as that guy is into, you know, modern classical, for him to say that this is one of the finest musicians he's ever heard, or he said something to that effect. You know, I'm gonna take that seriously. And yeah, the playing on here is fantastic. He's a stellar organist. And even if reggae isn't your thing, like, this is actually good and interesting musically in a way that reggae often isn't. I mean, that's kind of, and dub, which is why I didn't get into it for a long time. A lot of it is really quite bland and boring. It doesn't really do that much or exhibit, I guess, that much musicianship, really, but this stuff does. And there's plenty that does that I've gotten into and discovered. And a goal of mine this year has been to collect more African music, so picked this up a couple months ago. This is probably my favorite African record as far as I can tell. If not, it's probably something from Morocco or Egypt. I tend to gravitate more towards the North African stuff, and I kind of want to branch away from that and get more into other stuff. But talking about l'orchestra, Kanaga de Mopti, group from Mali. I play sort of a psychedelic blend of, I guess you could call it guitar jazz, and it sounds like traditional Malian music. Yeah, this is just full of bangers and super psychedelic, super rhythmic, great Farfisa organ parts as well. And like, I don't know, with a cover like that, you gotta check out this record, you know. Great stuff. Highly recommended. And another one that's just an absolute classic, I think, of African music. I not to lump it all together, which I think is a bit foolish and short-sighted, but anyway, this is Mahmoud Ahmed. It's from Ethiopia, and I'd say this is quite similar to Mulatu Astaki, who I think is a bit more well-known in terms of its approach to African jazz, Ethiopian jazz. Crucial difference being that, you know, Ahmed is also a singer. Yeah. Great stuff. I really like this record. It's just chock full of bangers. Really great jazz record. Julius Hemphill, Coon Business. Got this cheap on eBay a while ago. I really would like to get his other record, Doran AD, but for some reason it's just super expensive, super hard to find, but this one, for whatever reason, was super cheap, and I'm glad I got it, because it's fantastic. Julius Hemphill, if you don't know, is a saxophonist, and here he's put together a great band with, oh, I didn't even realize Arthur Blythe is on this. He's another great player. And you got 2 alto saxes, Barry, cello, drums and congas, and very rhythmic, very horn heavy, and the cello playing on here is actually a highlight to me. Great jazz record. The contemporary, or I guess student of Julius Hemphill was Tim Berne, who was also an alto sax player. And this record is just fantastic. I mean, everything in his discography is at least interesting from what I've checked out. But this record particularly appeals to me because you've got Bill Frisell playing some of the freakiest, most bizarre guitar I've ever heard on a record. Like, the way he uses guitar effects on this record is just brilliant. Like, check out the track. Opens the B-side, Federico. That is just mind-blowing. His guitar effects on there, on top of, like, the almost, like, Brazilian percussion section they've got going on that track. This is wonderful. Columbia Records, another one I found just dirt cheap. Fulton Street Mall is the record. It's absolute classic. This has been one that I've been spinning frequently in quarantine and in general recently. I mean, this is one that took me a while to grow to love as much as I do. In particular, Robert Wyatt's vocals, for some reason, were something that took me a long time to really grow to appreciate, but I love his vocals now, and so Facelift is probably my favorite track on this record. Yeah, I don't feel like I need to say too much about this one. Just about everyone in the VC, I think, has shown it at one point or another. Brilliant stuff. And if you don't know, Soft Machine is Canterbury scene, progressive rock, contemporaries of Pink Floyd, open for the Jimi Hendrix Experience, and for some reason do not get the same recognition as those guys, even though I think they deserve it more. Fantastic. And speaking of Robert Wyatt, I played a couple of his solo records recently, this one being just a must-have album, Rock Bottom. And again, it took me a long time to really grow to appreciate this record, but now, like, the vocal solos on Sea Song and Last Straw, like, they just get me every time. Just so brilliant. Such a talent, Robert Wyatt. I mean, not even to talk about the songwriting or the rest of the playing on this record, like, Hugh Hopper, his parts on a lot of this record. Fantastic. Oh, and Ivor Cutler on the last track. Love it. Rock Bottom, Robert Wyatt. This gives any singer-songwriter type record a run for its money, in my opinion. Must have, must hear. And later solo record of his, which I haven't seen as much or at all, Sleep. This one came out in the 90s. And it's really good. It's got great songs on it. Really creative and, I guess, up to date for the time sort of sounds on it. You got Brian Eno playing on this record. You got Evan Parker playing on this record. Yeah, so many good songs too. Like, let's see. I think some of my favorites are Alien. Blues and Bob Miner is a lot of fun, and Free Will and Testament is probably my favorite on this one. Yeah, I just have grown to adore Robert Wyatt and his music. Another one I probably don't need to say a single word about. Can. Future Days. If you haven't heard this, what are you doing? If you haven't heard Can in general, what are you doing? Like, God, I used to DJ at campus, college campus, college radio, and I was playing Can once. Some guy walks in, some know-nothing, and he's like, oh, this is cool. You heard of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard? I had nothing to say, and, you know, it's fine if you like that band, but, like, come on, like, know just a little bit of music history, kids. And I say kids, but, I mean, obviously I'm young, but still, I'm opinionated too. Bali Agung, Erhard Schoner, a really fantastic collaboration between a progressive electronics musician and Balinese gamelan musicians. This one is cool, especially like some of the tracks they do a rendition of the Ramayana monkey chant. If you've ever heard that, it's almost like you're doing vocalizations of the various gamelan instruments. Sort of similar to, I forget what the term is for it, but like Indian tabla players will have like a specific syllable that represents every tone that the tabla makes. And that's kind of what the monkey chant reminds me of. Anyway, that has very little to do with this record, but yeah, this is great stuff. I mean, if you like electronic music or that side of krautrock that kind of branches into world music, I think this is one well worth tracking down. Erhard Schoner. And speaking of Indian music, I think I showed Shankar in my first video. Mentioned there was one that I like a little bit better than that one. This is that one. Specifically just because of the A side of this. The A side of this, which is just Ravi Shankar solo sitar piece, it's just so sublime. Like, I listen to that all the time, and I listened to the B side last time. I don't always listen to the B side, and I listened to it yesterday, and I was like, oh yeah, the B side's not as interesting. It's good, you know, there's nothing wrong with it, but I don't know, just something about the A side of this record is just like next level compared to my other Shankar records and the B side of this particular record. But yeah, this is my favorite of the ones that I have. Sound of the sitar, Alaraka on the B side. And yeah, it's still great playing. The A side is where it's at here. And the last one to show, another world music record. The Azuma Kabuki musicians. Now, I saw Jello Biafra, singer of the Dead Kennedys, talk about his record collection on YouTube at some point, and I specifically remember him showing this record and comparing it to Hawkwind. And I wouldn't make that direct comparison, but I see where he's getting at with the notion that this is supremely psychedelic music when you take it out of its traditional context and put it into Western ears. This came out in 1954, so obviously it predates all psychedelic music, really, and, you know, not even speaking of how ancient the tradition of kabuki music is in general. And yeah, I guess just something else that I wanted to say about this was that I like the way that the vocalizations in kabuki and no theater as well almost seem to sort of poke fun at Japanese culture of the time, and like Bushido and like the seriousness of samurai culture. Like there's this scene in I want to say it's Kagemusha, the Akira Kurosawa film, where a warlord is defeated, and in response to it, he just gives this impromptu, like, no performance, and it's like the most absurd, like, out of touch sort of reaction to losing a war or whatever. But I don't know, I think that kind of illustrates the point I'm trying to make. But anyway, this is fantastic stuff, and after seeing that video, I was lucky enough to find this for $5 in one of the under-the-counter boxes at a local record shop. Great stuff. Highly recommended if you can find it, and I think it's online. If you want to check it out that way, but if you can find it, great stuff. So yeah, I'll probably make some more videos soon now that I've finally gotten that stack of records out of the way. And Jesus, I've been wanting to show this for like a couple weeks, and like I said, tried to last weekend, it didn't work out, but I'll have more soon. So until then, take care and stay healthy, stay inside, keep it real. Bye bye.